Hi, welcome back to my channel, beautiful minutia. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and today I wanted to do the end of the year tag. That's an interesting title, this end of the year tag, but obviously when you read the questions, they are more focused on the final quarter of the year, transitioning into the end of the year, not actually wrapping up the end of the year, which you probably already know because you've probably already seen this tag floating around. I've done this tag on my channel every single year, and so it's kind of a fun way to document how the year's reading has gone and what my plans are coming up for the final quarter of the year. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. So the first question is, are there any books you started this year that you still need to finish? The obvious answer is all the books that I'm in the middle of right now. But all of those were on my TBR. None of them have extended months and months or anything like that. So those are kind of silly answers. The only book that I started earlier this year and kind of hit pause on that maybe I'll finish by the end of the year, but maybe I won't, is Peter the Great by Robert K. Massey. So I actually started this in January for We Love Jenny and got about 20% of the way through and just really wasn't feeling it, really wasn't interested in what was happening. Honestly, what I really want to read, I really want to read Nicholas and Alexandra by Robert K. Massey, but I felt like, okay, I'm also really interested in Catherine the Great. But Peter the Great comes before both of those, and I'm like, I feel like I need the context. I can start with Peter, go to Catherine, and then Nicholas and Alexandra. But the problem is that I wasn't as interested in what was happening with Peter. I'm much more in a nonfiction mood now than I was at the beginning of the year. I didn't hit that nonfiction stride of oh my gosh, I want to read all the nonfiction until about May. And so there is still a chance that I'll pick this up, but I do have some other nonfiction on my docket that I'm really excited about for Nonfiction November. So I don't know if I pick this up. I feel like I would need to start it over, honestly, because I really don't remember some of what was happening in it and where I am in it. So we'll see. But this is the only answer that I would have. If I do DNF it, it would be a soft DNF. This isn't a book that this is one I plan to come back to at some point. The second question is, do you have an autumnal book to transition you into the end of the year? And the answer is yes. It looks a lot different than it looked last year. Last year I did a whole vlog of fall books recommended to me by you, and I was purposely leaning into cozy and spooky and all the things. And I'm really not doing that this October just because my October has been very overwhelmed by reading for Victober. But I also feel like Victober books feel very autumnal to me. They feel perfect for this time of year. Maybe that's because I've done Victober so many years. Ever since I've been on BookTube, I've been doing Victober. So maybe that's why. But there's something about fall and winter when the weather is cooler that just feels like prime time for classics reading. So maybe that is why I feel that way. But yeah, I'm reading all the Victorian books, loving them. Currently, the ones that I'm in the middle of while I'm filming this is Wuthering Heights and Wives and Daughters. But, I still have 2 or 3 others that that I need to get to. But all the Victorian books are really doing it for me. I also just remembered, this wasn't in my TBR, I just remembered I have October Country by Ray Bradbury, and that's a collection of spooky short stories, as well as I also have The Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury. And I didn't finish the October Country last year. I started that collection of short stories and didn't finish it, and I was fine with that because I'm like, oh, I can dip in and out of this in October. And then I got The Halloween Tree also. So I'm like, okay, I might dip into some Bradbury as well because I feel like that is very autumnal also. The next question is there a new release that you're still waiting for? And I don't think so. As you know, I usually don't have highly anticipated new release lists. I read a lot of backlisted books. I read a lot of classics because they're much more easily accessible. And I kind of like for the dust to settle. I'm not usually super hyped into new releases and getting caught up in all that hype. I usually wait until there's kind of a more balanced perspective than just the, oh my gosh, this is the best book ever, it changed my life, which is usually the initial buzz of a lot of new releases, so I like to kind of wait a little bit. So I don't really have anything that I'm waiting for at this point. Next question is, what are 3 books you want to read by the end of the year? I have more than 3 books scheduled for buddy reads or things that I'm reading or whatever, but I have 3 things that I'm like most excited about. So we're going to go with those. I have Resurrection by Leo Tolstoy, which I'm planning to read in November with a couple of people. So super excited about this. It's been a while since I have read a Tolstoy, and I've had a couple of you tell me that this is your favorite. And usually when people are talking about their favorite Tolstoy, people are between War and Peace and Anna Karenina. I'm in the camp that firmly loved Anna Karenina and liked War and Peace. I'm glad I read it, but it was I struggled. So that's kind of where I am with Tolstoy in terms of like his major works. I've read some of his shorter works as well, but this is like shorter in terms of like his other books. Like I think this one, it's around 500-ish pages, a little over 500, I guess. And in comparison to Anna Karenina and War and Peace, this is quite short. I don't really know anything about this, but I'm excited to read it because, like I said, several of you have said that this is your favorite. I am also in December planning to read Dombey and Son by Charles Dickens. This is one of the few Dickens that I've not yet read. I really want to read everything that he has published for his like major novels, and I have 3 left, and this is one of the 3. So at the end of this year, I will have 2 left. So that's really exciting. I am very excited to read this one because I've heard great things about it, and I love Dickens, and December just feels like a really good time to read Dickens. It just feels really cozy. The last thing that I want to read is actually not so much a book, but a series that I started with my friend Whitney. We are reading through the Lycanius trilogy by James Islington. At the time of me filming this, I've only read the first book, but by the time this video goes up, I will have started the second book. So I want to finish that trilogy by the end of the year, which I feel like is not unattainable. They are longer books, and so sometimes I feel like there's a chance it might take me more than 1 month to read them, which obviously, if you look at the calendar, we're running out of time. But it ends up being more like a 6-week read than like a 2-month read if it goes over into the next month. So we'll see. There's a chance maybe I won't finish it, but I would love to finish the Lycanius trilogy by the end of the year, because our plan after finishing that is to go back to more Robin Hobb and tackle the next trilogy in her repertoire of the realm of the Elderlings. So yeah, that's my plan. I would love to finish Lycanius trilogy by the end of the year. The next question is there a book that you think could shock you and become a favorite book of the year? And initially, when I wrote that question down, I was like, no, I don't think there is. I don't think I have anything on the docket that I'm that excited about that I think could become a favorite. And then when I was actually sitting down to answer which books I still had to finish, I feel like Dombey and Son could become a favorite. I don't know if it could be a favorite of the year, like #1 book. I kind of doubt that, but I feel like it's going to make it into my top 10. Maybe that is like a little having too much hype for it. I don't know, but I've heard really good things about it. So I think that there's a chance that this could still become like one of my favorites of the year. But the question is there one that could shock you? And so the answer to that is yes, because first of all, I don't have the rest of my whole year mapped out. So I could pick up a book that I'm not even planning right now that I end up loving. And then some of my favorite books this year have been books that I definitely did not think were going to be favorites. And then they were. So I definitely think that there are books that could still become favorite books of the year that I'm not anticipating at all, or even books that I'm planning. Who knows? Maybe Resurrection will be a favorite book of the year. Maybe some of the Lycanius books will end up being a favorite book of the year. I have no idea. So it's really hard to say. So the short answer is, yeah, there could still be a book. The long answer is, I kind of doubt that I'm going to find my #1 book in the last 2.5 months of the year. Now, the last question, this is a short tag, is have you already started making reading plans for next year? And the answer is Yes, of course. I always am. I have buddy reads already booked next year. There's a couple of people that I really, really love reading with, and we already are like, we usually read classics together. And so we've exchanged some lists of books. And so I haven't like narrowed down my classics of the year or even narrowed down the books that I'm for sure reading with them. There are some that I definitely am, but I've learned, I've learned that I need to be careful in what I schedule myself for. And since I have an in-person book club and I also have a Patreon and I read really, really regularly, like monthly with both of them, I always want to leave room for those and make those like my number one priority because I'm leading discussions in both of those groups. So I want to make sure that I finish those books. And I've found that I can't have too many buddy reads going on at one time. I used to be able to, but now I'm at the point where I feel like my schedule has filled up with a lot of different things, and that is totally fine. But I found a much better balance this year than I have in years past, which I'm thrilled with because every year I start out saying, I'm going to buddy read less, I'm going to participate in less events, and then I don't do it. And I get overwhelmed and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to read all these things. And reading ends up not being as much fun for me. And that did happen a little bit in a couple points this year, but I really have scaled back this fall and it has been really, really pleasant. But that's not to say I am still making plans for next year for reading. Like I definitely already have a really good idea of some of the classics that I'm reading next year. I'm already working on my classics TBR. I have all kinds of things going on. I haven't planned what I'm reading for my in-person book club yet. We usually decide that in December and map out our books for the year, which is really fun. So there are things that I don't know, but there are things that I already do know, and I'm really excited, and I can't wait to share those plans with you. Well, that's it for this lovely tag. I love doing it every year and kind of like reflecting on like what's coming up and all those kinds of things. Although I will say that this is one of those tags. I love the quarterly tags. I try to do all of them throughout the year. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, all the tags. It's just fun to like reflect on my reading. This is one of the few that doesn't talk about like what's your favorite book so far of the year? So that's kind of interesting because I feel like the mid-year freakout tag has that. And then the first quarter reflections tag I did has that also. So if you want to see what some of my favorite books of the year have been so far, feel free to check those out. I'll have them linked so that way you can see them if you want to. But I would love if you did this tag, I would love to know if you did so I could go watch it because I love seeing what everyone's plans and reflections are. If you don't have a channel, I still would love to hear your answers. I would love to hear if there's a book coming up that you think could end up being in your top books of the year. I would love to hear like what books you are still like that you really want to get to this year. Like the 3 books that you're like, there are only 3 books I can get to for the rest of the year. What are those 3 books? I really want to know. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like and also subscribe so you can continue to see more bookish content from me. And I will see you again next time.